Adjustments here for Immortals. There's one. Twitch, get him out.
Hey, and the Vladimir ban. They did it. They're banning the things that beat them. Nice adjustment. A big smile comes out from Santorin as he realizes exactly what has just happened. First ban for NRG stays the same though with Echo.
And as always, adjusting in a series, usually the onus is on the losing team to adjust here, but we've swapped sides, so I'll see if that maybe makes a difference here as well. NRG landing up ban number 2. What's it going to be? It will be Ashe again, away from WildTurtle. And there's Kindred ban. Immortals, no messing around this time.
Yep, like you said, the onus is on Immortals to adjust, so the bans that they keep is just the Kindred, and the other two are new. It was the Swain and the Nidalee they banned last time. So it would be interesting to see if Quas could get his hands on a slightly nerfed Swain. His Q was nerfed by 30 damage at max rank if you consider the total duration of the laser it shoots out, but still a rather powerful champion as well as some ultimators.
And there's Victor actually, so I'm not going to say a throwaway ban, still certainly a strong champion and one Pobelter knows, but not a standard ban, certainly not a top pick that maybe everyone immediately thinks of. And this was banned last game. Immortals are at least going to go to hover that Lissandra, but they will actually take Nidalee despite the changes.
Yeah, so some nerfs to Nidalee I think still maintains the core of being an incredibly fast jungler, just can't move around the map as quickly because the hunt range used to be actually half the map. It is now, you know, kind of the range of a Nidalee spear, so to speak, is being able to jump in afterwards. Still no Rek'Sai ban or anything, so I'm curious to see if Santorin just locks that down early to keep the options open for NRG, or if they realize the jungler has already been taken for Immortals, if they just pick 2 power picks right here.
Well, certainly had a number of things left open as Immortals have shifted up their bans pretty significantly here in that first one. NRG with 20 seconds now to decide what happens, and we certainly like their draft in the last game. Was put together very nicely there by Coach Hermit, you can see on your screen. And Lissandra, Zyra, 2 mages will be the choice.
Yeah, and I think these are somewhat power picks. We've seen a rise in popularity from support Zyra, and it was also banned against Kiwikid a couple of times in week 1. And then you look at the Lissandra, it is Immortals' best tool of initiation. It was actually one of the bans of NRG in game 1, so clearly a lot of mutual respect for that champion across both teams. And now it's also something that either Quas can play or GBM can play. So not only do they have initiation, they have flexibility in their draft. I like the first 2 picks from NRG once again.
Yep, really solid stuff. Quas definitely tricked me last time. Did not get the Vladimir, got the Maokai instead. So we'll see what NRG do with those 2. Immortals, though, now going to have to lock in picks 2 and 3. And Nidalee is already a pretty big change as far as junglers go. We'll see how they want to round out these next few. Nothing really jumping out just yet as far as you must take this. Immortals with a lot of options open here, but probably going to want to hide as much as they can. Apparently like what they had last time, but it's maybe not the execution, because there's Irelia, and the Siv is going to follow shortly after.
Yeah, so obviously Huni was able to pick up a massive CS advantage over Quas, and I feel like with some of the tenacity as well as just bruiserness that Irelia can have, if Irelia gets ahead of Lissandra in a top lane, it makes it a terrible, terrible matchup, which might push Lissandra to the mid lane. And then Sivir is just a generic champion for Immortals to play with good late game team fighting, although it did get beasted in lane a little bit by Oku.
Certainly had a good start there, and maybe Oku thinks the same thing. Flashy Azul, but maybe thinks he wants to take more of a lane bully into a potential 2v2. We'll hover Caitlyn for the time being. Interesting to note, Lucian, after the changes, nobody cares anymore, apparently, at least in these first few games.
Yeah, I mean, he can still dash around and call people for a whole bunch of damage, but having less pass-through on the Q really weakens the laning as well as less range on the W. And OQ has already liked Caitlyn in the last week. The range advantage on Caitlyn versus Sivir does make for a favorable matchup. And NRG just needs to make sure they don't fall behind Immortals, because we've seen Immortals is very willing to just go at you in fights. And you can imagine if Immortals had big advantages while they were forcing those fights, it would have been an easy walk away for Immortals, but because NRG had the laning advantage, they were able to counter in teamfights.
Well, Santorin will swap things up after Rek'Sai, go a bit more aggressive and take Graves there into that Nidalee matchup. Soraka, though, already locked in, I believe, for Adrian, so we'll take a signature pick back with him, and we'll see how they round things out. Looks like maybe they'll pick here for Pobelter, given that they do need a mid laner.
Yeah, no messing around with that Soraka pick. One nice thing about the Soraka against the Lissandra in particular is you can just put the silence field on the Lissandra claw and completely stuff the initiation if they decide to go that way. And it will also be decent for sustaining against the Caitlyn lane. So who better to play it than Adrian? I think it's a good pick in this situation.
Well, certainly, again, kind of going with the trend of range supports being a thing, as Pobelter does get Twisted Fate that they hovered earlier. So I like this pick. Definitely, I think Immortals looking to have a bit more of a cleaner and maybe more aggressive early to mid game.
Yeah, they want wave clear because they already had good wave manipulation against NRG, and now they have the champions to kind of match that with Sivir and Twisted Fate to just really shove out the lanes. And at least they have, if they get ahead, a great way of taking over the map with all the move speed as well as the Twisted Fate ultimate. And now we get to see the lane matchup that NRG picks into.
Kiwikid's definitely having some fun here. But we'll see if maybe Quas actually goes back to boring old Maokai. It's so many exciting champions to look at.
Why not?
Nunu? No, no Nunu. It is Maokai once again.
Slow that Irelia attack speed. Come on now. Maokai makes sense. It solidifies the initiation for NRG. It will also put the onus onto OQ to continue to deal a large amount of damage. Twitch is easier to deal huge amounts of teamfight damage on than Caitlyn. Caitlyn will need a lot more items to do so. They have a little bit more damage in the jungle position to make up for it. So a very cohesive front line with the Maokai. I guess I meant to say cohesive front line, just a cohesive team fighting team with the initiation combo of the Maokai and Lissandra versus Immortals, who I think are looking to shove out waves and gain control of the map, but not a great team fight setup.
No, we talk about the high pressure style for Immortals. They've got the ability to snowball maybe every section of the map actually with his team con. Twisted Fate's great for that. We've got support from Adrian with the ulti if they need it, and ReignOver, much more aggressive jungler that he can play with. I mean, his Olaf was pretty aggressive in that first game. Nidalee flies through the jungle. Santorin will see if he can keep up and play that farm heavy style he likes.
Yeah, I think so as well. Santorin had a spectacular first game, 2-0-23 in a 29 kill game. Obviously, player of the game honors did not go to him, but it's because so many people pitched in on that team. So really looking forward to this game too and see if NRG could actually sweep Immortals.
Well, that'll be quite a feat here, but we're almost ready for the second game. We'll see if they can, in fact, complete that sweep. Update your predictions using the hashtag IMT win or NRG win. And after that first game win, I think it's anyone's best of 3, which is the best thing about getting to play 2 to 3 games.
Yeah, the more depth you're going to see in a team strategy. Immortals, if they're worried about getting tested in the regular season, well, they're definitely getting tested now. Their second game loss in only their third match, but still doesn't count in the full loss column if they're able to close out the next 2, so they got to turn it on right now.
Well, we're going to get onto the Rift and we'll see if Immortals can maybe bounce back and force a third game here versus NRG. A very different look. Huni will take Irelia back into the game once more, but certainly different champions here for Pobelter and ReignOver. Have to see if Immortals' top half of the map can continue their strong performances from spring and, of course, week 1. NRG, though, feeling great, turning things around with a game 1 victory. Can they stay consistent and win a second game against Immortals?
And can they continue playing with confidence? OQ stepping up in team fights instead of stepping backwards and not dealing damage, giving support to GBN, having Quas and Santorin commit in team fights are all incredibly important things that NRG has to stay consistent on if they want to win this game.
Well, once again, we are going to see the teams fan out at the early stages. We did see standard lanes to begin game 1. You know, Immortals always fancy them, but NRG certainly got the better of the early 2v2. Turtle currently is on this side of the map. Going to path his way down towards that blue side tri-bush and hang out for a little while, doing some circles. Looks like we are just going to get standard lanes, though, and don't think NRG are going to mess up this early camp.
Yeah, let's hope they do the Gromp this time. I want to see how cleanly and how quickly the Caitlyn and the Zyra can actually take the Gromp, because that's going to dictate a decent amount of the lane. Or if Immortals tries to disrupt it a little bit, since they wouldn't be able to kill it nearly as quickly.
Ooh, I like this, actually.
You know, they walk through a ward, but they might scare him away. Oh, Q. That was actually pretty clever. He gets the shot off to make him say, like, yo, we saw you. That's going to make them fearful that maybe they're walking into a trap and allow for a really clean thing. I also loved how OQ stood in the tri-brush there to get faster headshots on the Grump. So, like, all the optimization coming out from NRG, and they take that very quickly. And then he fires off his Q and wastes on it. Come on, man.
Almost all the red side optimizations down. As a big experience lead, actually, for OQ. You can see already right-clicking away, but good boomerang blade there from Turtle. We'll start the lane off relatively nicely. Pobelter and GBM busy fighting. GBM going to win that early trade with some Qs, but Pobelter should be just fine there with a few potions.
Yep, GBM trying to just cycle a relatively low Q cooldown and shove the wave out early on Twisted Fate. Both those champions with pretty substantial wave clear. A bit of a dangerous lane too, since they both do bring hard CC, so the ganks have a very large impact on that. Like Lissandra Graves, especially as you can attest over in the LPL, used to be like the dynamic duo because it's so easy to convert kills with. Could Santorin go for a level 2 gank?
This is so cheeky. Huni going to be forced to flash. Quas flash Q. He's going to get a bit of knockback. Damage is down, and first blood goes to Quas.
I love the adjustment as well as the support that Santorin is willing to give, and also just playing on the tendencies of both his own top laner and the opponent top laner. Everyone always loves to talk about how Santorin is a moving ward and he never ganks. Well, that's what Huni was thinking in both games in exactly the same matchup against a Maokai who started Doran Shield. So in Huni's mind, like, there's never going to be a cheesy level 2 gank by the Jungle Graves, but they both flash for it after they get the early Twisted Advance from Quas. He leveled that up. A lot of times Maokais don't take Twisted Advance until later because they go Q and E to clear the wave. Just well played all around by NRG, punishing Huni for his early aggressive lane patterns on Irelia.
Yep, Krug's red to straight ganking in the top lane. I love it from Santorin as NRG get the first blood in this particular game. ReignOver claimed it last time around. This time it's Santorin with the early status, but not enough to win the game, of course, from this point. A nice early lead. We'll see what NRG do to convert that advantage. And if Quas can keep up in this lane the time around, he did get the kill. He is going for at least 2 Doran's items this time with the shield and the ring. A little bit behind on Huni on CS, who did TP back to the lane fairly aggressively after dying.
And it doesn't look like the wave ended into the best spot for Quas. So it's currently going to be a 200 gold advantage, but as far as items, it's just the 1 Doran's item that he has ahead. So I think Huni's going to continue to play aggressive and try and get that CS lead back to just kind of make up for the kill.
We'll see if ReignOver maybe pops a visit in there as well, but Turtle still struggling a bit here versus OQ. I mentioned it in champs, like the range advantage certainly favors Caitlyn, especially into someone like Sivir. But Quas now with the wave back in a nice shiny spot. Just going to make sure this stays in a pretty good position. And Huni play aggressive where he can, but Maokai's Maokai.
Yeah. Trying to get that Sab magic off with the Doran's ring to cast a few more spells. To speak to the bottom lane matchup a little bit as well, like, we're saying it's the AD carry matchup of Caitlyn versus Sivir, but like, Sivir just to lane against Zyra is really difficult. Like, that spell spam comes out so often and the plants just constantly spawn, and Zyra actually has a longer range auto attack than Sivir, as well as a really smooth auto attack animation. So just from a straight hit-to-hit trading, like, Zyra beats Sivir as much as Caitlyn beats.
And you can see why Zyra's been such a prize pick for Kiwikid here. Very strong range support. Certainly he's doing good here against Turtle, as they almost actually got a kill, burning the Ignite and forcing, I believe, the heal out of Turtle. Keep himself safe. Turtle's got to be on point with these spell shields, because pretty much any time you miss one, bad things tend to happen to you in this lane.
Pretty much just a survival lane for these two. Adrian and WildTurtle have to avoid as much poke as possible and just try and keep the farm close without losing their turret.
Yep. Well, we'll look to mid lane now instead, because Pobelter are actually doing something we saw Twisted Fates do a short while ago. Haven't seen too much of the card master, but Catalyst first looks like a Rod of Ages. Could be the first item here for Twisted Fate.
Yeah, I think it's smart in this situation. I mean, he's already brought the cleanse to try and stop the Lissandra burst, but just Lissandra Graves is a very devastating gank combo, and just having a little bit of extra health can help that.
Santorin's in again. WildTurtle under threat. Good grasping roots there. He's going to get the stun down, and Kiwikid able to take that kill. Santorin again with the gank.
Boom! Outpacing ReignOver's Nidalee. Graves versus Nid. Gets the first gank up. Hasn't even fallen that far behind in CS, and the big thing about his ganks, he hasn't been countered, but here's a mid laner gank, and maybe the counter gank. ReignOver wants it.
They're going to try and tank the turret up, but actually Huni goes down and gets executed. Now ReignOver going to die, I think. Pobelter does get the kill, but GBM's going to teleport in, claw towards Pobelter, lock him down, but Pobelter there with the gold card. And Immortals get away with just a trade. Yeah,
if that teleport was a lot earlier, maybe they would have even saved Quas's life, but just not a well-executed gank by Immortals. Like, maybe you see a little bit of why ReignOver and Immortals were banning away Kindred and Nidalee, because he's played it a few times, he's had a few good games, but I would never say that Nidalee is one of ReignOver's favorite champions. This gank itself is really just between Huni and Pobelter, but he's just a level 5 Irelia, can only take so many turret shots, gets executed, but then Quas locks down ReignOver with a Twisted Advance, and like, despite his flash, the turret's gonna kill him. He's a level 5 Nidalee with no defensive itemization. The teleport in from GBM at the end was actually quite poor because he was out of mana, but it's still going to be, I'd say, a failed game.
Yeah, and I mean, again, Quas, go first blood, gets ganked, takes a trade. Looking just fine now at 2-1 and 0. Has gone again for the triple Dorans, but I think going to be a little bit happy with the early influx of gold that he's gotten. We'll see if Huni's Sheen can really combat that. But Immortals feeling a little sloppy in the opening of week 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I was not concerned at all for Immortals after week 1, because even though they did drop a game to Cloud9, they still kept their match score well, and they were adapting with different champion picks. And like, even still, they have been playing different champions here, but rather alarming just how sloppy they've looked in game. Last game and then for the first 6 minutes of this one. It's not the Immortals from Spring Split regular season early on that we're seeing here.
That's also not the NRG we saw in week 1, who've definitely been playing nice and clean once again in the early game. Motivator's almost on the way for Pobelter though, as he's got himself a blasting one. So Adrian and WildTurtle have all roamed up to babysit Huni because they're going to try and take this turret.
Let's swap it around. Let's see if Huni can get better wave management than Quas, which is one of the ways he got 100 CS advantage on him last game. But even with that, when Huni got the 100 CS advantage in the Irelia versus Maokai matchup last game, he never once solo killed Quas, and Quas was still effective in teamfights, whereas Huni was not. So NRG's got to be feeling very comfortable about their positioning right now. Santorin has outpaced ReignOver at least early, and they're able to trade turrets just fine with a big CS advantage from their duo lane.
Yeah, only needed the 2 champions as well. Kiwikid and OQ able to work on this turret, and it will fall on this wave. Looks like they're not going to bother trying to deny off these creeps. They'll just push it through. Maybe deny a couple here, but collect the gold for themselves and keep pushing through. Response coming out from Immortals, so they should be able to stop any pressure onto this tier 2, but you said it already, this is just a trade. And even if Huni gets ahead, I feel like his Irelia last game looked great when he was in a side lane farming or maybe playing in the lane early on, but just didn't have the same split push pressure or teamfight presence we've seen from maybe his Ribbon, even just from last week.
Exactly. I mean, Aurelia's power curve is unique. It can be strong early, its Trinity Force power spike is amazing, but then when you're thinking about 42-minute Irelia, that's not scary. Maokai's going to be way better even with less gold at that stage in the game. So Immortals will really be trying to play towards that mid-game spike. When ReignOver can get Rylai's as well as his Runic Echoes, Twisted Fate potentially have Lichbane and Zhonya's. Like those 2 or 3 item spikes are going to be where they're trying to push, but they might not get
Huni on top of a ward, and that's an easy kill. Santorin just blows him away with his ulti.
What's Huni doing there? I feel like he was trying to decide the lane to go to try and keep his farm as high as possible since his teleport was available, but like just pokes his head out way too far. The ward coverage is deep back of the jungle, but not in the river, and they just easily blow him up. Yeah,
and OQ said almost a complete switch around after week 1. 20 CS ahead currently on the Caitlyn, helping Quas out on this top side of the map. Huni going down means that Immortals are not safe on this top half of the map, and this should be another turret, and I don't think Turtle has time to make a trade.
Yeah, and also, look at this. Making sure they don't have time to make the trade. What could be considered a very risky teleport isn't as risky just because of the way they've been able to kill.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Over and over. Whoops-a-daisy. Well, the guy, he left when he went to teleport down. And that's like the opposite of what you expect when you have a top laner teleport your lane. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, the old lane gets instantly killed. Pobelter going to have to be the shining star here for Immortals early on with 2 kills.
Yep, 2 kills up for the Twisted Fate, and a very nice ulti actually to get pretty much a reactive kill onto OQ. Zeal now up for the Caitlyn though, so it looks like Rune and Hurricane will be that first item. As Pobelter is clearing these waves out, seems like he's got a whole lot of work to do in this particular game. If he can't keep energy under control, could have a very similar look that we had in game number 1, but looking good so far at least. As Huni is actually struggling to find farm at this point. Now up in the top lane, doing what he can.
He is. This lane he should be able to freeze, but that could very well be at the cost of a Drake. GBM is walking up to the top lane to maybe get some work done, but this would seem like a natural transition for NRG to just go and take Mountain Drake. It seems like Immortals is trying to pull off a double freeze, which is really greedy as far as wave manipulation because you lose all your pressure on the map. Let's see if NRG either takes mid-turret or goes for Drake.
And again, we kind of saw this last game. 11, 12 minutes in, NRG back to mid lane pressure. Yes, Twisted Fate is good wave team, but he's been caught there as well. Headshots in. Net barely misses on for OQ. And GBM and Santorin also maybe posturing for a dive. Huni, he sees him there on top of a ward, but this is a dangerous spot to be for Immortals.
Yeah, and I like how WildTurtle started pushing the bottom wave as well because they know they need to be able to spread out their power a little bit and at least pull someone from NRG down so it's not just a 5v3 in the mid lane. We're seeing the pressure Zyra can put out though, but also the wave clear the Twisted Fate can have. Immortals is holding this mid lane fairly well thus far.
Double AD carry going to start doing some good damage, and Immortals maybe not lose it on this way, but going to lose a lot of damage to it. GBM threatens with the zone, but doesn't commit with the claw. Bit of push and pull here in that mid lane. Pobelter eats a cupcake and gets headshot for it.
Yeah, similar to the type of siege that NRG would have wanted to pull off in the prior game when they need to threaten the wave clear off the turret. Instead of a Rek'Sai, it's GBM sitting over there on Lissandra. And the Caitlyn also a much better turret taker than the Twitch in siege situations. Teleport coming in though.
Aggressive play, ran over Core though. He's going to go down, I think. No, he actually flashes out to safety, and the TP's not completed. Kiwikid's got a bail as GBM flashes over the wall and rejoins his team. Pobelter still looking for it. Santorin flashes into the Rift Turtle pit. Smoke screen's good. He's trying to wait it out and get himself over the wall. Uses the ulti. Pobelter gets snared up. And NRG escape.
Yeah, the whole time Quas didn't have his teleport, so there's actually no way NRG could match that 5v5. Santorin with the creative ultimate usage. It felt like he was so worried about missing that. He just like stood in the corner, thought about it for a few seconds. Can I ult over this wall? I think I can ult over this wall. Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna try it. And then he eventually does. Immortals burn a lot to try and make that initiation happen, don't get a single kill. So that's a win for NRG.
And the push is not done. OQ with 1 cannon creep. Make that no cannon creeps. As Pobelter does clean them out of the wild cards. Huni now on top side, starting to push that way forward and apply some good pressure. So he's reverses back. Quas will likely rotate up, or someone's going to go there and try and get it.
Yeah. NRG's trying to avoid what just happened, where they get teleported on and can't match the 5v5, so they're going to move the guy with teleport to the lane that needs to be cleared. And right now, that's GBM. Well,
double TP again for NRG. Sorry, didn't have it last game. That was actually Immortals, so we'll see if maybe NRG can make a bit better use of it. Immortals, though, did have that good 3-lane pressure, but right now really stuck trying to make sure this turret doesn't go down, and Turtle's back in his favorite spot, clearing up mid lane, which was his duty for 10 minutes in the last game.
And he's pretty good at it, I might add. Has been getting caught less and less than his dark days on TSM later in his career. Had a great split last time on Immortals and has been pretty solid for them here, but more on utility AD carries, interestingly enough, early on in the split, trying to rely on Huni, ReignOver, and Pobelter to carry.
I mean, we've seen the Ashe ban. We did see Lucian last week, but it seems like teams don't want to touch him right now. Turtle was a big fan of the Ashe, kind of considered it under Lucian, so feels like if Lucian's kind of dropping off the meta, seems like maybe the teams think that way here. It makes sense that he just said, you know what, it's a utility meta, I'm just going to go straight for the utility AD carry.
May as well just do Sivir, and it's wave clear for Immortals, which is their favorite fallback pattern, because if they go over aggressive, if Huni has a bad start, which for as great as he is, has bad starts fairly frequently to games, as long as Immortals can keep the map pressure on via wave clear, they can usually stay in the game. And I feel like ReignOver actually accidentally damaged the Rift Herald there, which is going to stop him from invading to get a pink ward.
Unfortunate. As NRG, I think, still looking for this siege. Definitely played it a little bit safer than before, but kind of have better tools perhaps. Whereas GBM is the real question, because I think he wants to threaten a flank one more time, but not quite there just yet. Quas busy top lane, seeing what he can get done.
And I really want to see NRG go for Drakes faster. This is a 15-minute Drake. I think they could have done it a few minutes ago. Gank is going top lane. And we're actually going to see a fight. This teleport from GBM is going to try and turn it.
TP'd answered. Huni going to get crushed down by the burst damage rate. Here's ReignOver to try and equalize. GBM getting low. Will go down to the Nidalee. And now Quas outnumbered 1v3. Going to get himself stunned. He'll try and get a trade kill. Not just yet. Huni flashes out of it. And they'll clean the other one up as well. Quas flash Q for the kill. And ReignOver finally collects him.
Yeah, and that's not over yet because they might try and push down this mid lane turret. They get Turtle.
They do get Turtle. The damage is there. Knock up from the Zyra plans, but OQ can't quite get the Q. He'll take the turret instead. Santorin also got the dragon in that exchange, so NRG across the map in every lane, they get something done.
Man, so much just happened as they go for that Drake, but that's the type of play that you want Quas to make. That's the old Quas right there. In a 2v3, at the end of it, able to trade 1 kill back, but the overall play is still suboptimal for NRG because GBM teleported in to a fight with almost no knowledge, and the best case scenario was it's a 2v2. It turns out to be a 3.5v2 because of the Soraka ult and the Nidalee, but Quas comes in and is looking to extend.
Yep, teleport flank is not quite enough for Quas as he can't extend and get a twisted advance down. So NRG will just have to be happy with a few minions here. Quas now down the teleport. That's NRG with a lot of pressure now off the map for a few minutes as those cooldowns will come back up.
Yeah, and they are just going to be able to take the Rift Herald in this lull because they know that everyone on Immortals is going to be going back. Giving this to Quas will, if they give it to Quas, will just make sure that the Irelia can't be split pushing in situations like this. So they get the Twisted Fate ultimate off and like immediately GBM goes, even though they have no vision on that side of the map. So ReignOver walks up as well as a Soraka ult coming through and it just keeps Immortals alive for a while. And this is actually just straight greed from Huni. Because he comes back in a little bit, which allows Quas to flash Q him, whereas if he would have just kept running away, it's a kill secure, he's still going to get his assist credit. But I think Huni was actually really hoping he could get that kill to get back in as a split pusher, but he's unable to, and he ends up giving one back.
Well, does have that Trinity Force, so doing decently currently in the side lane as he'll team up with ReignOver, take out that bottom outer turret. Currently 3 turrets to 2 there for NRG, so they do hold that lead. Pobelter caught in mid lane once again. Kiwikid very accurate with these snares. But it looks like NRG is going to keep the tower up for now. And just to let you guys know, Santorin did get that Rift Tower buff, so they managed to give that over to their jungler. Decided not to give it to Quas.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of giving this buff to the jungler currently. It can empower his ganks a little bit, but outside of that, I don't think he benefits nearly as much as the long-term isolated 1v1s you can get with your top laner. But that's the choice they make because Santorin's having a pretty good game. All right, yeah, and you can see when he's near his teammates, it also doesn't stack up the corruption stack. So, especially since they've been using him in siege situations, I think even less of an incentive to give it to him. But they did it.
Yeah, I understand the philosophy. It's like, it's a Maokai. It's not really a split push champion, but looks like the team's going to join up with Quas anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we've even seen Impact from Cloud9 get the buff against Huni and make Huni like really struggle to split push because of the damage reduction.
Oh, that's true. I guess the element's quite good on tanks as Immortals will use Huni's ultimate. And a bit of a Runic Echo sprock there to clear that out. NRG, though, in honestly full control at this point of the game. Gold lead again, very slim between the two sides. Only 600 gold up currently for them, but they're playing the rotations well. They're keeping better track, I'll say, of the sideline pressure. And Immortals with only one TP and a Twisted Fate ulti just can't keep nearly the same pace they did in game 1.
Exactly, and the team fight from the composition is much more cohesive for NRG, so you add that to the fact, and if we didn't think that Immortals was, like, coming into the split, I still thought they were the best regular season team in the LCS, and NRG, I was very skeptical about their ability to integrate 4 new players in. If I didn't know that, I'd say NRG's well ahead in this game.
Oh, Santorin again gets out with the ultimate, and the TP's in from GBM, I believe. Now maybe going to turn this around. Good snare there on Adrian, a WildTurtle. Adrian going to get blown up, I think, but he's living for a little too long. Oki, though, is going to take that one out, but GBM dies on the other side to ReignOver. A 4v4 now as Huni's looking to try and take somebody out. ReignOver dives in for it. Going to take damage, though, as he moves for it. Huni goes crazy, takes out Kiwikid, but he's going to get locked back up. Oki, though, does not live the night. A double kill in there for the Irelia. 4 members dead for NRG already. And Santorin going to get stunned up and killed, I think, as they'll be able to chase him down. Leap in there, and that's the ace.
Absolutely crucial fight for Immortals right there, and it was the teamwork that really did it in at the end. And Huni just never giving up on the game. Already dead 4 times, 0 kills, but he was one of the biggest difference makers in that fight. Massive for Immortals to get a lead back in this game.
Well, certainly looking good there as they'll get an ace, get themselves the kill lead and the gold lead now, and maybe even more, so we'll watch this one again.
Yeah, and NRG doesn't have everyone here at the very start of the fight, so they have to teleport in with Lissandra. They take a lot of poke before anything even begins, and then they go in for a pretty good initiation. But watch how GPM nearly bursts out Adrian, but then he sticks around for a little bit longer, which again gives Immortals time to damage them down. And at this point, Huni's ultimate is perfect. He gets 3 people with 3 of the blade shots. Then he just goes in, gets the kill on Kiwikid. That also reset him, so he was able to hop on Oki for the extra bit of damage. So a really well-played team fight, I'd say, specifically from Pobelter and Huni that allowed them to win this game, and a less effective fight from GBM because he used all of his burst just for the support Soraka, who still got the ultimate off and wasn't even bursted from 100 to 0.
Yeah, really nice play there from Immortals, managing to turn it all around. Adrian, always a target, I feel like, in team fights, but definitely lived through almost all of it to get Immortals into a strong position back into the game. We'll see if they can continue side lane pressure, though, because that is sort of the name of their game once again. Twisted Fate, Irelia, plenty of good champions to split push out, and even Turtle hanging out on that top side, just going to mow down these waves at this stage.
Yep, can shove it so quickly so that they can then go back and set up fights. But Mountain Drake already down for NRG, Cloud Drake spawning, WildTurtle was just in the top lane. If NRG is willing to commit here, they have the teleport on the Maokai. They could just go right away as it spawns. But they do not go deep for vision control, and it looks like Immortals is actually going to be able to move in position to contest.
Yeah, both top laners do have their teleport, so can join this fight for the Drake if either team wants to. ReignOver barely mistiming that spear, but Immortals are on top of the Cloud Drake, and NRG just going to give this one over.
Yeah, so they have conceded pressure of this game over to Immortals, and I do still believe that NRG has the more cohesive team fight team late in the game, and they're waiting for OQ to hit his itemization breakpoints as well. I've never liked Infinity Edge first on Caitlyn since the changes. I love the Hurricane first with like something like a BF sword. So they are straight up relatively weak in the team fights right now because GBM doesn't have the ability to burst anyone out, and the Caitlyn's not super strong. But instead, they fight on top of turret, and Quas might get bursted.
Yeah, that's big damage, actually. Quas forced to flash out of it. Rest of NRG here, but Immortals might have a siege of their own. This bottom tier 2 looking awfully low, and they'll just move in for it. Huni gonna start them out. Oki almost going down for it. Pobelter moves in, gets the stun card back, but Huni somehow living as GBM dives in there after the Zyra ulti. GBM has taken out Adrian, but they'll swap it over for their mid laner, and Immortals are not done just yet. Quas tagged by a spear, but now the siege ends.
Yeah, and the coordination decisiveness we saw from NRG earlier in the game seems to have just like transitioned back to Immortals, and now Immortals is making the team fights that they would want to have. Quas had to flash out defensively. I don't think GBM played that last fight particularly well. when he could have just self-ulted, but instead decides to ult an enemy and then immediately Zhonya's. And just a little bit of miscommunication here. I think Chaos, once Huni goes in, then watch this Quas, like the instant self-ult would have done the same thing. And then he would have had the ability to buy extra time with another Zhonya's, but instead, Pobelter zones out the rest of the team with the gold card and everyone has to retreat regardless.
Get the tower out of as well, so Immortals, effective pressure there, joining Huni this time in the side lane instead of forcing him to split push on his own. Looks like Huni's going for pretty much the same build, so his strength will still be there in fights if he can get onto the key targets. But Immortals do have to play carefully, and I think that time, much more effectively navigated around Kiwikid's ultimate in particular, because Zyra was giving them so much trouble in game one.
Yeah, I think part of it is also that it's not combined with Twitch and Vladimir, who were a little bit better following up on the Zyra CC, although GBM could technically bring the burst, just not the sustain.
I think GBM's still stuck in Vladimir mode, actually.
A little bit, yeah. He's just trying to dive into the back line and just like, oh, wait a minute, I don't heal for 800 all the time. Only once, and that's when I self-ult, but for some reason he's not doing it.
Well, let's see if NRG can clean this up, because Rune Hurricane actually is done now for Caitlyn, so teamfight's sort of there. GBM also maybe with a flank. Gets silenced, very nice from Adrian. GBM even locked up. Might be forced to just bail out. The spear's going to miss. Huni almost gets away with that one, and now ReignOver just going to flash forward and try and take out GBM. Doesn't predict the juke though. Twisted Fate still going to chase, and GBM's absolutely dead. Stunned up and killed. Pobelter claims him.
Yeah, and so much damage was just placed on GBM at the very beginning of this fight. The difference between GBM last game on Vladimir and this game on Lissandra is just night and day. And Immortals might actually try and turn to Baron here only 24 minutes in because of how much they were able to burn killing GBM knowing he's down for 24 seconds. This could be a situation where they're just looking to bait a fight at Baron. Well,
Baron has been started by Immortals, getting awfully low. NRG 4v5. See if they press themselves in here. Immortals aren't going to commit. They'll turn around for the team fight. Quas stunned up there in the front lines, but the silence isn't bad either. Zyra ulti, though, does zone them out of the way, and Quas is taking a beating here in the front side of the map. He will fall, though, as Huni claims him. Now, ReignOver on the chase, going to get his face headshot off. No, not yet. OQ tagged there by ReignOver. He's going to chase in. Damage is there. Pops the Zhonya's. Going to buy time for the rest of the side as Huni's found Kiwikid for the kill. Santorin stunned up, but they're through the base gate and save.
And ReignOver has really been turning it on Nidalee here. Notice how he's gone relatively tanky with his build as well. Roa Zhonya's and now a Spectre's Cow with Merc Tread. So he's fearless with his ability to just jump straight into the team. And since NRG is falling farther and farther behind, his Bruiser Nidalee is actually working very well. So Sivir ult was great. The way they're playing around Zyra is much better this game. And Immortals is looking back on form.
Yeah, we talked about it in the early stages where it felt like NRG were getting, once again, an advantage in those first 15 minutes. Pobelter needed to step up and start controlling the game. And now the zone is completed after that Lich Bane 306. The boys look great.
Yeah, they don't take too much damage from Baron, and they also have Soraka in the back. Plus, Adrian can be fearless since they know Lissandra is dead right here. The fight pauses when the Zyra ult goes out, and Immortals doesn't walk into it. As soon as it's gone, they shoot forward again. ReignOver accurate with the spear, right onto OQ, able to just jump straight, and then his Zhonya's to prevent the burst, which is, again, quality. Huni kills someone off on the side of the fight, and ReignOver gets the win.
Pobelter just sung his praises. Checking with that replay. I think could have killed OQ. They didn't quite get the auto down. Still pressures there for Immortals. 5 turrets to 3 and a big gold lead starting to mount. And we talk about this a lot with the top teams in the NA LCS. They tend to win fast and lose slow. And that's sort of the story of this game as well. Immortals kind of slowly got bled out in a very close game by NRG, but even to their credit, they did play it very well. Immortals, game looks close, all of a sudden one fight happens and boom, 8k up.
Yeah, and even though we were able to praise NRG for their decisiveness, it was mainly the difference in the decisiveness they were showing in game one versus the complete lack of decisiveness they showed earlier on in the split. Whereas Immortals here, like you said, as soon as they have that edge, they immediately turn to Baron at 23 minutes. As soon as NRG is in initiation range, they immediately turn off, and everyone does seem to be on the same page.
And now back around the Baron pit. Tags GBM there with a spear as ReignOver doing good damage actually on the poke side of things. Mountain Drake also up in 30 seconds or so. So we'll see if they split the map for these objectives. Kiwikid cannot afford to face check those spears. Seems like Immortals are more than happy to be patient here.
Yeah, one interesting thing that I do see is we have Huni and ReignOver going Banshee's Veil as well as a Spectre's Cowl and a Negatron Cloak on Huni for very good burst protection. But Pobelter and WildTurtle are still technically vulnerable to a catch. So at least those guys are safe from going in. And will he go all the way into the base to finish off OQ?
No, Pobelter does not commit.
All lasts a long time. Yeah, he's not doing it. He's right. Oh man, Quas actually canceled his teleport there as well. So this is a large opportunity for Immortals to bait or just do the Baron. There's no wards. There is one trinket up. Will GBM use it in the right spot?
Base check. Oh, Santorin does get tagged. Clear out from GBM does deter them. But again, had no real gap closes, I suppose. As Immortals, same trick? They got the blue ward.
Well, blue ward is down. But they also have... They don't have Sivir ultimate yet, but they do have a Huni.
They're just fighting. Huni goes straight in for GBM, who does ult him and get the kill. Oku takes him out, but the damage on the back end is great as ReignOver takes out GBM. Now Quas tanking what he can. Immortal's going to try and kite back, but Santorin leaps forward, tries to take out ReignOver, who's still living there through all the healing. Quas, he's going to go down in a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Immortals.
Huni gets a little ahead of himself, thinking he is unstoppable right here, and is reminded why he has died 5 times prior to that fight, because he is not unstoppable yet in this game, but they're still able to win the fight because they have the sustain of Soraka, and because GBM just gets completely obliterated after he actually decides to ult Huni. And now it would be Santorin's job to try and steal this. Quite a hero mission.
ReignOver, not going to let him have it either. Pobelter's even there with the gold card, does get some vision down, going to try and poke him away. Immortal's being very careful with this Baron.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage.
Santorin wants it. Not enough. Wildcards, not enough to kill him, get the flash, and there's the Baron out for Immortals.
Nicely secured by Immortals there, putting just enough harass on Santorin to prevent the steal. So we'll get to see this fight from the start, and he gets locked up in Zyra, and then GBM again just uses ultimate very early in a fight and leaves himself completely open to a counterattack. Also, OQ gets poked out so heavily by the combination of boomerang blades as well as wild cards, so he just can't sit in the back of the fight on Caitlyn. Looking more reminiscent of his Caitlyn games in week 1, where he's just really low on damage despite being a very good champion for late game teamfights. And he's reaching that point where he's supposed to be late game Caitlyn. He needs to be able to dodge those wild cards and avoid those ricochets down the stretch. Otherwise, he can't be a contributing factor, and Immortals will run away with the game. Yeah,
and we talked about it before with Quas on tanks. NRG really need GBM and OQ to do a lot of heavy lifting in those teamfights, at least as the damage front is concerned. Huni, on that bottom lane, is going to start to split push things out. Does have the teleport ready to go, and did actually get the Baron buff because of Santorin's little shocky for position there. So the delay did work out for Immortals. Adrian able to heal up enough, and now very good pressure here on both these lanes. Top to bottom, Immortals going to try and take out some turrets.
Success. They know Huni has teleport, and they know the Quas did cancel. So if they're timing it just right, they'll know Quas will have it back up, but it's still going to be really hard for NRG to deal with this 4-1 split push.
I think it's about how much can Quas get done here, because Huni is pushing creeps in, making sure the range creeps do damage. They are going to pull pressure from Santorin, and Immortals just pushing back S4 here, straight forward towards a creep wave. WildTurtle eats that one up, eats a cupcake, gets shot in the face. Ooh. Just another day in the office. Man,
the things you can do with Soraka. Like, why have your AD carry popping Caitlyn traps in front of a turret? But hey, he's full health. It's totally fine. Yep. And then Nidalee heals back Soraka. The cycle of life is complete, and you realize how busted that combination is.
Pretty good, especially in a siege situation with a Baron buff. As Immortals happy to play this one patiently. Pobelter eats an ulti up from GBM, and it's just cooldown's being given away here.
Yeah, now they can go in real aggressive.
And there's the turret down. Inhibitor soon to follow by the looks of things. NRG not interested in defending that one.
Yeah, really do want to point out how amazing it is when you have Nidalee with a Soraka, because the cost of Soraka healing is her own health, and Nidalee removes that cost. So she becomes an insanely efficient healing machine. More so than she already is.
Yep. Zoku eats a spear to his face. There's a nice blue buff actually just below them. I'm sure ReignOver would like it, but instead I think they'll just continue sieging for a little while longer. They do have pressure in every single lane, with super creeps starting to stream down the midsection. Dragon also up, so they can go and take that if they please.
Yep. Another wave of super minions will be reaching, and even though ReignOver had run out of mana, the blue buff had conveniently spawned, so he can go refill that right now. And Immortals can continue this siege. They're going to hope to draw another big cooldown out of energy, I'd imagine, if they were to go in. And I think they're just going to play it a little bit conservatively because they've gained so many positive things from their push already.
Yep. Pretty much got what they wanted on the initial wave push there from Baron, so they'll back off and reset their map, probably spend some gold, and finish off this Dragon before they get that done. Mountain Drake going to go over to Immortals, matching the one that NRG have currently, but Immortals will lead in Dragons 2-1 as they take that one down. Significantly less Dragons than last game though. Elder will be our next one, as you can see there from the icon.
Yep, but it'll still come up 6 minutes after Mountain Drake right now, so we're going to be getting Elder around 38 minutes and 20 seconds. Baron's still a decent chunk of time away, but it's not like NRG has had time to go out on the map and even clear the pink wards that Immortals has put around that, so we'll add that Immortals just has really good control right here. And because they've been able to set up such good siege situations, and because GBM and Quas are, again, very far behind, the teamfight initiation just doesn't necessarily matter right now. Soraka can stop anyone from being bursted from 100 to 0. Sivir has Spell Shield. Pobelter has Cleanse and Zonias. And Adrian himself, if Lissandra's coming for him, can actually even save his silence, just put it right on Lissandra to prevent that initiation. So Immortals has done a really good job adapting throughout this game to the ways NRG would attack them, using their gold lead to get the right types of items, and now they're just in total control.
Huni wants for it. Pobelter in as well. Stun lands in. GBM going to get chain CC to death there. That is rough for poor GBM.
Pobelter's TF has been very good. That one gank in the top lane early that didn't quite work out. Pobelter, he's not having any of that. He only takes credit for the good ones. 5-0-7.
Santorin gets aggressed on there by Huni, and this tower, every little blue card TF throws in is a huge amount of damage as the Immortals break bottom side in the meantime. More than enough pressure as Quas has been tagged. ReignOver's in! Just a bit of poke.
Yeah, everything's falling apart here for NRG. GBM is the leader of that team. When he's having such a bad game, you can see the rest of it is just kind of falling apart.
OQ, that feels bad. Huni goes in for him. They will flash out of the way. But Immortals now with super minions in every single lane. Quas stunned up. They're not done. Santorin, the next target, as he ultis himself back to safety. But Quas going to get jumped on. Huni's going to take him out. The turrets are going to fall. And I think Immortals can push through for the win. Huni wants to pad those stats and try and take them out. OQ tagged on the other side as ReignOver's going to try and solo him down. GBM dives in and ults himself. But Immortals going to work on that Nexus. And we are going to get Game 3, I think.
Are they going to let ReignOver die first? No. They're going to save him.
Immortals coming back strong there. Pobelter doing a lot of heavy lifting in that mid and late game. He talked about it. The lanes have fallen behind. It looked a little shaky. We needed Pobelter to have an effect on Twisted Fate, and an effect he had, and the rest of Immortals followed very eagerly behind him.
Yeah, and ReignOver's pickup of Nidalee had a very strong scoreline by the end of the game. I still think it's definitely not his most polished champion. You could see a lot of bad leaps, a lot of poor spears early on in the game, but he still understands exactly what he's supposed to do on that champion and had a very effective game.
Yeah.
So ReignOver, Huni's still not having a great series, and as you mentioned, Pobelter, who we said was going to have to, was actually like the fear of, oh, if GBM gets going, that's how NRG's going to win. Pobelter is actually like, no, I am just going to do really well, and I will be the reason we win, and he does that this game.
And let's talk about GBM, because things did not go well at all for the Lissandra. He was trying to be aggressive, trying to make the big plays, but like we said, it's not Vladimir. You don't get to sustain a team fight forever. I feel like the spirit of his play was the same, but unfortunately the pick didn't work out the same way.
Yeah, and a lot of inconsistency still coming through from GBM. This means that actually the only games he's won in the LCS so far are the 2 he's played Vladimir. So he's got to show some consistency on other champions that aren't super overpowered at the moment. So jury's still out actually on GBM's performance so far this split.
We'll have to see if they can do it as Immortals do pull the match back to even. So we are going to be going to Game 3 for the decider. For more on the Game 2 equalizer, let's check it back in with the analysts.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. As he just mentioned, Immortals equalizing with that victory. Much more decisive victory there over NRG. But NRG is actually where I want to start, because as Jatt just mentioned, the 2 games that they have won are with GBM on that Vladimir, and there was a very stark contrast between his Vladimir play and his Lissandra, which did less than impress.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've found to be a trend with GBM. We were talking about it a little bit before the games, just in pick and ban. I found that he is like so good on the champions that are kind of just like high DPS champions, poke champions, champions that can basically contribute continuously throughout the fight. You know, when he's playing his Gangplank, he looks great. He has high damage numbers. When he played, you know, even Varus last split, he looked good on that. Same thing here with with Vladimir. But when it's the champions that he has to make these kind of like explosive splits decisions,
all in initiation,
it just doesn't seem like it works. Like his target selection wasn't very good. He's suiciding to kill the Soraka, and it's like, great, you kill their support, but your mid laner's dead.
That being said, they did have a good opening to the game.
Yeah. Very much so.
Like I was looking for, they upped the tempo. Santorin had good ganks top. He had a good gank down bottom. They had a pretty good early lead in both of the side lanes, but then Immortals react just better. Immortals like, you know what? We don't need to stay here. We don't need to stay here and lose CS to this Caitlyn Zyra lane. I'm done with this. So they're like, let's start trading turrets.
Right.
So then they start trading turrets, which is what you do when you're behind and you don't want to stay in the laning phase. You end the laning phase. Once they ended the laning phase and they started trading the turrets, they got that global gold back in, they were able to recover pretty well. And I think a huge part of that is Pobelter, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for holding onto that mid turret while the side lanes were equalizing and recovering, as long as he did.
Yeah, I mean, you have the likes of the TF and the Sivir, so wave clear with the red card plus the wild cards, and then Sivir boomerangs and stuff. I mean, they were able to extend the game just long enough to kind of to get to that point where 18 minutes into the game, NRG pick a fight that maybe they don't have any business picking. We do have the replay, and we can kind of jump into it, but NRG picking this fight at Immortals red buff ends up being an ace for Immortals.
I mean, it's a tough one. They were looking for a fight, but Pobelter's able to ult in here, and now they're pretty much committed because GBM's coming in. This is talking about target selection. He actually flashes in. He's going to ult off Adrian. Adrian's able to live long enough to get his ult off, though, and GBM goes down. And now this is on the back end of the fight that Huni's able to get so much work, and this was such a key moment in the game because Huni had been down. He lands a big ult. He's able to go in, not only kill off Kiwikid, but he gets a reset, takes out OQ, and from here, he really started to snowball a lot because we have to remember, he was like 0-3-2 or something like that at the start of this game. This was a bad start for Huni, but he came up big in this team fight, and I think some pretty big mistakes from GBM.
Yeah, the difference between the full tank top laners and the Irelia-like champions there. Irelia goes to the back line, 2 people die. Maokai goes to the back line, he delays the other team's back line and then eventually dies.
Yeah, and so that's where I next want to talk about Quas on this Maokai, because as you mentioned, I mean, Santorin.
If that was Alawi, there would have been like 500 tentacles in the jungle there.
Near the red buff, that's, you want to fight in those choke points. But I still want to return to the Quas point, because as you mentioned, yes, they turned up the pressure, they sent Santorin top, they got him that early kill, but we still saw him in a CS deficit coming out of that advantage, right? So Huni gets back there, gets that CS advantage. We're not seeing the lead that we would have maybe expected out of that Maokai. And then I want to couple that with the interesting build paths. And Azale, I know you have some thoughts on the way that he's been, going the triple Dorans. He's done that now in both games into a giant spell as opposed to a few other options out there.
Yeah, I mean, he seems very attached to that build, and it is really strong in the early game, but I do think that it delays your item completions quite a while. So it is a pretty big committal, and when you're already kind of ahead, sometimes it can be really nice to jump out to an early Bomby Cinder, something like that. It can have a lot of laning power, help to extend your lead. But I think a lot of what the CS leads come down to is just the fact that Immortals controls lanes better, they allocate farm better, and that's why they're so good.
Yeah, and to tack onto your itemization for Maokai there, you give up a lot if you're building kind of selfish tanky items and not going with the auras that you usually see. Frozen Heart does so much.
Yeah.
If Maokai's building sort of selfish tanky stats, Irelia just zips past him like we saw in that team fight. Okay, he can hold and stay alive a little bit longer with everybody hitting him, but eventually he's still going down, and you're not even slowing Irelia's attack
He's not benefiting
speed,
the rest of the team.
trying to peel or something.
All right, well, some criticism for Quas. We'll see if maybe he changes that up or stretches to a new champion in our next game as NRG.
I think you know which one it should be.
It's going to be Alawi. We've already heard it once. But now, of course, it's time to award our player of the game. That's going to go to Pobelter. You already had some high praise for him in the way that he kept the team in the game when they did have that deficit.
I just thought that was such a crucial point in the game where they mentioned it even in the cast. Just like, this is pretty hard to try and freeze on 2 sides. We're trying to equalize 2 lanes at once.
Yeah.
And he spammed out his cards as quickly as he could to try and get the wave down every time. ReignOver also had a really good performance. He would come in and try and smite the cannon, because that's one thing you can't get with double wild cards. But man, Pobelter, not only the wave clear and holding that for the team to equalize, but also had good TF ultimates.
Yeah, the side lane pressure as well was huge. He helped Huni get back into the game. He held down the mid lane turret. He had great contributions in the late game. Key in that one fight we just saw in the jungle where they got absolutely smashed. So great job by Immortals as a whole, but Pobelter specifically.
Series stands at 1-1. We're stepping out for a quick break, so stick around because we'll be right back with Game 3 to decide this match between NRG and Immortals. You're watching the North American LCS.
All right, let's go, bros.
As a team, as a team, we are just better. We must play as a team, you know what I mean? As a team, we are better, okay? It's gonna be alright.
For level 2
This
gang.
is so cheeky. Huni gonna be forced to flash. Quas flash Q. He's gonna get a bit of knockback. Damage is down, and first blood goes to Quas. The threat, good grasping roots there. He's gonna get the stun down, and Kiwikid able to take that kill. Huni flashes out of it, and they'll clean the other one up as well. Quas flash Q for the kill.
Too far for me. Take slowly, guys. Mount. Help Huni. I got it. I got two of them. It's only Graves, it's one.
Immortals coming back strong there.